So today's tutorial is all about this. This is my traveler's notebook, and I wanted something to put it in to keep it safe. And here's how far I've gotten so far. And if it looks familiar, it's because, yes, it matches my clipboard that I've had for like 10 or 12 years. So now all that's left is the base to this bag. And I have to turn it inside out. And obviously this part is not easy. This actually took a little bit and a lot of effort, and trying to pull from one end and roll down from the other. It's just part of what this takes. Might have been easier if I had trimmed the strings in the middle, maybe? I don't know, because you can see everything all the string I had to add on is all through there, right there in the middle. So yeah, trying to get it to straighten out kind of became a trick because of that. Then, okay, so the next thing you'll notice is there's these little diamonds that I created. And I don't know if everybody saw this over on Facebook. I shared some images of this paper. Okay, see, what I did was I made the paper to basically how the diamonds come down. Was able to then figure out how many of the spaces there would be left. And from there, I was able to then determine how I was going to do it. I didn't want to put all the diamonds on one side, though it would have been kind of easier to not. My thought was this would make the bag a little bit more structurally sound if I kind of interchanged it. And so now you can see I'm trying to get it grouped together. And what I'll do is I will tie the black strings up at the very top of the diamonds together, because holding it together at that point is easier than trying to start at the very outside and work my way in. The bag itself will basically be subjected to staying right where it's supposed to if you kind of get it from the outside first. So you can see I put that corner together, and then I'll put this next corner together. And that became the end of the bag. So that's right. And then from there, you'll see I basically started the long row. Well, no, actually it's a short row. I started joining where the red and the black come together. And then kind of then it becomes a long row after that. I did it inside out, so that way obviously all this tassely bit ends up on the inside of the bag, and you'll see it just gave it kind of a pretty clean look. Mind you, you can see where these knots are. I could take an embroidery needle and kind of go over the space and make those kind of go away, but I kind of really like the way that it turns out, and you'll see that later on. So okay, so here you can see I'm trying to get everything to line up. Now mind you, trying to do this for the camera turned out to be a lot harder than the way I end up finishing it. I'll show you that here in a little bit. But what I'm trying to do here is kind of show you how, see the red square is going to attach to the other one. And the colors all line up. So, and this kind of makes it easier. This isn't anything like when I did the bag with 200 plus colors. This one here, because all the colors are the same, I can tie black to the black, then the dark gray to the dark gray, and so on and so on. And that certainly makes finishing this one a lot easier in my mind. So, because it's about trying to get it to line up straight. If it gets askewed, that would be really noticeable in the final, when you turn it back the right way around, you would definitely see that. So, but all I'm doing here is taking a string from one side and a string from the other and tying it in a square knot. And again, the colors are going to match up each and every time. So here it's the nearly white, and it just goes into a square knot. And then the next one would be the lightest shade of red. It's time consuming, sure. And for me, the part that probably drives me the most insane is, in order to cinch it nice and tight, I have a problem because I don't have calluses in the spot where that counts. And that really comes down to the fact that when I tie knots, it's typically not this way. I tie the other ones, right? So just doing this morning has, like down by my little fingers, I can kind of feel it a bit. Not crazy or anything. Bigger bags have been worse. But yeah. So this is all there is to it. It's just making them line up and following it down. And I mean, I kind of wish you could see in there more. I know that all that string going everywhere is a huge distraction. You can kind of make out sort of what I'm doing. But it's because everything fits together kind of like a jigsaw puzzle or something, and then it's just cinching that all together finishes it up. So at this point, I think we can go ahead and speed up this thing and get on to some of the other bits. Okay, so it's just lining it up, tying the knots, and going forward. And that just keeps repeating pretty much until you have the whole bottom done. So after I stopped the camera from rolling, I ended up using this thing. This is back. I have to laugh here. Little inside joke. I posted this before and said this was my little thing, and nobody seemed to get the joke. This is a stitching pony. So yeah, it's a My Little Pony joke there. Actually, if I can find a sticker, I want to put a My Little Pony sticker on it. But anyways, this, you sit on the long part and the other part holds whatever you're stitching together in place. And that made it a bit easier than just trying to work with it on top of my desk as I was doing before. So, all right, back to what I was doing. This is sped up. This is like twice as fast, and it still seems slow. Mind you, the whole thing, it took me an hour or so, maybe, to finish this whole thing. So, and mind you, I get really excited at this point. I'm at the end. I just want to see the whole thing finished. It's one of those, yay! So, yeah, that's that can be a good and or a bad thing, whatever. But definitely thankful that it's all finished now. I was trying to remember if there was anybody had any questions. I keep throwing out questions in Facebook. I have a page called Ask Not, and I try to get people to respond and to ask me questions about, how this kind of stuff works, so that way I can answer them at these points in the videos. And I don't think anybody managed to give me anything on this one. I suppose it's relatively self-explanatory, relatively. So, if you guys do have questions, leave comments. I do try to answer them as quickly as I can. In fact, I wake up in the mornings and it's like the first thing I do is I check to see if there's anything to answer, emails or otherwise. So, but yeah, once the whole thing is all stitched together, then you turn it back right way around. And at that point I just checked to make sure everything was right before I had to turn it back to inside out before I trimmed everything down. So, oh, one thing I'll point out is while I was making it, I was convinced that I was making it too long because of how I had to give it that whole extra set of row or whatever. But it turns out that there's probably only a couple cm at the top, like, you know, okay, for Americans it's like less than an inch. So actually it turned out perfect. The only thing left to do is I want it like this drawstring cinch for the top, and the wife's working on it. But the kumi for that is exactly like the loops. So if you go into my webpage for this tutorial, you'll see how that was actually set up. So it's exactly the same, it's just a bit longer is all. So what else? Seems like I had in my mind there was so much more I was going to talk about in this bag. But oh, again, this is for myself. This one's not for sale. This is actually created for myself. This is going to be something I drag around with me in my backpack or whatever. The Traveler's Notebook is a Japanese thing, I guess, because I mean that's the store that sells all its supplies. It kind of reminds me of like the Franklin planner I had a long time ago, but it's got more room for jotting in my notes of arts and things. I sometimes get these like crazy ideas like, ooh, wouldn't it be fun if I make a bracelet like, and it gives me a place to kind of jot that down. Plus there's a calendar. Not that 2020 is turning out to be much of a highlight for, you know, jotting down memorable outings or anything, but I thought it'd be nice to have a calendar, jot down, you know, where I went or things that happened, and then, you know, sometime in the future I'd be able to look back and be like, oh yeah, I remember that, it was so fun. But yeah, it not quite paying out this time around. Anyways, yeah, you can see there I just was lining it up. That's just get the strings in the right sequence and lining it up, tying them together. All right. Okay, so there it is. Finished product. All sealed up. You can kind of see where the knots are. They leave those little lines. And you can see how I had to bring the three corners together to make the corner of the whole bag, which kind of squares it out. And that's what allows the book to fit in so perfectly. And you can see, I mean, that really fit in there just nicely. I mean, that's not much at the top. And when I cinch it closed, it'll keep the pens in. And I like that row of diamonds because it shows like which end is up. Like that's, you know, so if I'm digging in my backpack, I mean, it's just kind of this visual thing that, I don't know, I really enjoy it. So if you enjoyed today's video, please like and subscribe. And until next time, don't get your strings in a bunch.